most sincerely welcome you to today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. How has your week been and how is business going? On today's episode of Tax Matters, we'll be sharing with you the proceedings of the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board, which was held in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, on Monday, the 14th of August, 2017. It was a one-day meeting, yet it was action-packed, eventful, and issue-oriented. It had in attendance an array of personalities representing various stakeholder groups in the Nigerian tax ecosystem. Welcoming delegates, the Executive Chairman of the FRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board, harped on the imperatives of collaboration amongst relevant stakeholders in the Nigerian tax system.
I think we're at the start of changing what I'll call the financial profile of Nigeria for the better. We have moved totally away from dependence on oil revenue to non-oil. And of course, taxation is in the forefront. And that's why we have some very distinguished guests here with us today who are also going to discuss certain issues in terms of change, in terms of VADES, in terms of the collaboration between the public and private sector. I don't recall any time in the past where we have had such integration, not only as members of the Joint Tax Board, but also with members of the private sector. And the good thing about it is that we all share the same vision, and that is to make Nigeria financially independent, to ensure that our governments, both at the federal and state levels, have enough resources to carry out their mandate and improve the standard of living of all Nigerians. We will be talking about the voluntary asset and income declaration scheme, which has been introduced, and I'm sure all of us are aware, but we're going to go a bit deeper. We're going to review what has taken place since July the 1st and actions to be taken place thereafter. I'd also like to thank all state chairmen for their activities in the Tax Thursday. The acting president also is in the forefront of this tax drive, and he had declared that we should make Tax Thursday something to bring into remembrance of all Nigerians the importance of paying taxes. In terms of the list of the high net worth individuals that we had asked respective states to forward to the Joint Tax Board, only 12 states have done that. So for other states that have not done so, this is a good time to please try and do the same.
Opening formalities over, the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board got off to a roaring start with the presentation of a paper on administering VATES, the roles of stakeholders.
Payment of tax is compulsory. But when we say there is a compulsion element to tax, it means that government has ability and the will to track all taxable activities and then prosecute evaders. Because no nation has been able to do this successfully on a sustainable basis in terms of recording 100% performance. The shift is towards voluntary tax compliance. Tax amnesty is an innovative strategy to implement voluntary tax compliance. So it's a way to deepen the tax culture of doing it yourself before the intervention of the states. So VATES was introduced on 1st July 2017. It's an opportunity to come clean and start complying going forward. Tax amnesty may go by different nomenclature or different titles or names in other countries. In Pakistan, it is called VTCS. In India, it is VDIS. In Nigeria, we have VATES. It was initiated by the federal government with active involvement of the JTB. The chairman had already spoken about memorandum of understanding and all that. Those who are eligible, I've already mentioned that those who are on the wrong side of the law at the moment, then requirements for valid declaration. Disclosure must be voluntary, must be full, must be frank, and must be complete and verifiable in all material particulars. So taxpayers shall apply by filling the VATES form, Form 1. Then taxpayer may also self-assess themselves or request the relevant tax authority to carry out the assessment. So where a taxpayer has done self-assessment, can proceed to pay without necessarily waiting for. But if the tax authority reviews and is of the opinion that more taxes should be paid, then they can follow the normal procedure in the tax law on requesting for additional return and also serving additional assessment.
For those who fail to embrace VATES within the stipulated time,
consequences of failure: liability to pay in full the principal sum due, liability to pay all interest and penalty, liability to be prosecuted in accordance with the relevant laws, then withdrawal of any relief which may have been granted. And this is the threat. This is what people should be afraid of, and that should actually make them to race towards the VATES office.
and the benefits.
Confidentiality of information. Government undertakes to respect the confidentiality of the taxpayer. It will not be seen on the pages of the newspaper that somebody owns half of Dubai or a quarter of another island.
In rounding up, Professor Sonny had this to say.
I particularly commend the idea of Tax Thursday. In the National Tax Policy Document 2017, the recommendation is that we should have one national day dedicated to taxation. But now it's 1 day per week. I think we should clap for the federal government. And I believe we can leverage on the existing framework that exists in our tertiary institution and in secondary school, where we have tax ambassadors who already know and understand the tax system to some extent, and who can then take this to the nooks and crannies.
Professor Sonny's paper was discussed by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who thereafter proceeded to present his own paper on the National Tax Policy Implementation Roadmap.
Prof mentioned the website, and I think this website is perhaps the most important platform for you to get information, not only get information, to get updated information as we go along. It's a fact that for this scheme to be successful, we have the most important stakeholder groups in this room. The tax authority file just gives you scenarios, because sometimes people have been violating the tax laws and they're not even aware. So when you read a scenario, it gives you an idea. A good example is someone who works, they're a senior person, they pay PAYE, but when they speak, they get honorarium. And it's not exempted from tax. But they never declared it for tax purposes. So when you're talking about VAT, this guy might even come out and say, I'm one of the cleanest people in Nigeria paying taxes. He hasn't realized that he's just as bad as the other guys. So that's why the scenarios are very important. Just walking through them, you might see yourself in the picture. The whole idea is not to say that those who need to come under VAT are terrible people and that we are the saints. No. So all of us should want to take advantage of VAT, including those of us in this room. I'm still reviewing my affairs, and I might be filing VAT, along the line. The taxes that are due, that you want to pay under VAT, are personal income taxes. You go to the states. If they are corporate taxes, CIT, VAT, you go to the FRS. But then all of them work together the way it should be. The most developed economies in the world rely on tax revenue. Now, their tax authorities don't go and beg people to pay. It's a waste of time begging people to pay. It's not donation. You go with data. When you go with data, it's the other person now begging you, not the other way around. So Nigeria is working on exchange of information with the rest of the world. Direct agreements have been signed with the United States of America, United Kingdom, UAE, and Canada. You will agree with me that Nigerians just love those 4 countries. They love those places. You cover like 70% already of what you are looking for. On top of that, there's an agreement signed under the Common Reporting Standard Now, Common Reporting Standard has over 100 countries signed up already, including the regulars that you suspect, the Switzerland, even Panama has signed up. So what that means is your information is automatically sent to Nigeria. On top of that, we have information that we can get under FATCA with the US on top of what we've signed with them. And locally, information is available on BVN. If you ever bought FX, whether you were traveling abroad or you were sending school fees to your kids abroad, your data is with government, which is why the Honorable Minister of Finance was able to say that in 2016 alone, Nigerians paid over £360 million in school fees to UK schools alone. Now, paying school fees is not bad. Yeah, it just means that the money didn't fall from heaven. Why didn't you pay tax on it? If you had anything that moves from a motor vehicle to an aircraft to a boat or even motorcycle, you registered it with the state anyway. We have your data. In fact, apart from BVN as well, BVN is all over the place. If you had a bank account, your data is with government. And there's another one that's even more interesting. And this is to do with mobile phones. You know, over 112 million Nigeria, unique, I'm not double counting someone who has 3 mobile phones. Unique phone users, 112 million. Almost every single person that needs to pay tax in Nigeria, whether they are paying or not, whether they are educated or illiterate, is most likely going to have a mobile phone. If you study the data, I know there are legal issues and hurdles you need to cross, but if you get the mobile operators to give you data, and you just focus on middle class and above, if your average monthly spend for GSM is like 20,000 naira, you cannot be poor because GSM is not the most important thing in your life, right? So if you can draw a threshold and anybody above that, if they are not in the tax net, don't ask them to come and register. From the mobile details, send them registration details. We cannot find you. We have registered you. Here's your number. Within 30 days, please come and regularize and see whether they will not jump up. When you go to taxpayers with data, nobody, no matter how hard you are, will take that for granted.
As we keep saying, very soon, very, very soon, there will be no more hiding place for tax dodgers. How does one go about taking advantage of VATs?
Step 1 is declaration. So the very first thing you do under VATs is to declare. It's voluntary, so you do it yourself. Your declaration can either be online or offline. That process covers both individuals and corporates. If you do not have a tax number, that system allows you to get a temporary number. We don't want you to look for an excuse. I say, I really want to do VATs, but I don't have a number, so I've decided that it's difficult. In fact, people are calling from outside Nigeria, just so you are aware. There are Nigerians in the diaspora. You know, their mindset about tax is very different from those of us here. They think you should just pay tax, no matter what. So people are calling from the US, from the UK. You can't ask them to fly into Nigeria to come and do biometric, get tax number just to do VAT. It's too complicated. So the whole idea is you get a temporary number once you register by providing your details, and it allows you to continue with the process. But you must regularize your tax identification before VAT is over. The second step is assessment. Now, declaration is the first step, is telling the government and the tax authority who you are, your income that you've earned over the past 6 years, your assets. But that in itself is not an assessment. So that's why step 2 is the assessment. Now, at the point of assessment, you need to decide if the taxes you are declaring are individual taxes, go to the state where you're resident. If they are corporate taxes, go to the FRS. If you are declaring both personal and corporate, you can do both at the same time or go to one first. It doesn't really matter, but make sure you complete both before the end of the scheme. Now, in terms of the assessment, taxpayers by law are allowed to do self-assessment. So we uphold that principle. After all, your declaration was voluntary. So also should your assessment be. Do your self-assessment, but then there will be interaction with VAT officers who have been trained specifically for this purpose. They'll go through what you've done. If it doesn't make sense, they'll let you know and let you know why. Because bear in mind, one of the benefits of VAT is that once VAT is over and you've done it truthfully, you're never going to be audited for those periods. So that means that in terms of common sense, we shouldn't just accept anything that you bring. We have to review it to ensure that there's some consistency, it's complete, and it's honest. Step 3 is payment. So now you've done your assessment. Bear in mind that this covers 6 years. So you may not have all the cash to just pay immediately. So under VAT, you're allowed to pay in installments for up to 3 years. Now that negotiation will happen between you and the relevant tax authority. If it was your state, you discuss with them. If it was FRS, have that conversation with the FRS. But bear in mind, whatever you pay up until the 31st of December 2017, you shall get full waiver of penalty and interest. Should you decide, for whatever reasons, including cash flow problems, to pay longer than that, any payments you're making from January 2018 would attract interest, but you still get the full waiver of penalty. Now, the last step, okay, so if you just follow, first, declare, 2, assessment, 3, agree payment plan, and then pay as you agree, and lastly is clearance. Now, this clearance is first and foremost at the level of the relevant tax authority. So the same way that if you pay your taxes now, you get your tax clearance certificate, you still get it the same way. But at the end of the whole process, let's say you've paid all your taxes, you've done everything you need to do, there are promises that we have made as a people through the executive order to Nigerians who are coming under this scheme and even foreigners. For us to know that you're entitled to those promises, there needs to be another document that is not the usual one. So from the VAT center, you'd also get a clearance. This clearance will come at the end of your full compliance process. Now, it is that VAT clearance certificate that you present. If one tax officer shows up and say, well, we just want to audit you for 2014. Say, sir, but I declared already under VAT. So where's the evidence that you declare under VAT and you did it the right way? You bring out that clearance. Awareness and education is key. People must know their obligations so that they can pay taxes, not just under VAT, but even going forward. Because what we're looking to get is to expand the tax base on a sustainable basis. So there's the idea of the Tax Thursday. We have branded souvenirs. We have CTLOs. Those are community tax liaison officers. They will particularly be focusing on the grassroots to create the awareness. We have training for professionals, accountants, lawyers, tax practitioners who would be trained as part of this. And you see an important point here. There are young Nigerians who on their own have taken up the challenges of Nigeria and they want to tackle it, even though they have very limited resources. And they're not asking for too much. And those guys, some of them are the tax clubs in various universities. It started from Unilag with help from Professor Sonny. And they are doing fantastic jobs with their very limited resources. OAU, Abuja here. So University of Abuja had an event last week. You would think it was JTB organizing an event, and they were able to bring very important people discussing very important subjects. So the Ministry of Finance had kindly agreed that these young people would be ambassadors for VAT. So thank you for appreciating them. So in fact, it will also interest you that Unilag Tax Club actually started Tax Thursday last year. So coincidentally, government also introduced Tax Thursday. They even thought it was their own Tax Thursday that government took, but it doesn't matter who created it first. The point is, these are young people who want to help us succeed because they see a stake in it for themselves. It's about their future.
Still talking about public enlightenment and education on VAT. Another member of the VAT implementation team, Mr. Albert Folorenshaw, spoke about CTLOs, Community Tax Liaison Officers.
My comment basically will be on 3 points. One is the ongoing training for the CTLOs. I just want to mention briefly that these guys, the CTLO that have been passed for training, are being trained on basic tax principles. Okay, so by the time they are deployed to you, they are not going to be green. And of course, they're also being trained on how to approach people, how to deal with difficult people, how to communicate, try and educate a lot of people, particularly the market women and traders, on basic taxes. And of course, they are going to be working with the officers of the Internal Revenue in the state and the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And of course, presently, they're also being trained on the VATs specifically. And so they are going to join the state and the Federal Inland Revenue Service that will be in charge of VATs. Then the last point is on other issues, which have, the first one is a lot of states and FRS, of course, are carrying out audits, which are ongoing. Some of the states have expressed concern that what happens to the audit that is going on some of the companies that are in their territory. And of course, a lot of people have also made reference to the executive order that says that, if you are being audited, you can also come under VATs. But we want to explain that you must be able to make it clear to whoever is under audit, either in the state or federal FRS, that the audit must continue, except you have different thing or separate thing that is not already in the hands of the FRS or the state. What is not already known to them, then you can make declaration. Not that the audit should be suspended. So if you already have a contract with any consultant or any body that is helping in probably doing something that is similar to what looks like VAT, that does not mean that should be stopped. Okay, it's supposed to, enhance your collection effort. So we must be able to make it clear to all persons involved that if somebody writes you a letter saying that, can you remove all these guys that are auditing me presently, please explain to them that VAT is not about stopping audit, it's about enhancing declaration. And so whatever is not already known to the tax authority should be made known, and you can declare that.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office, you can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that request stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government coffers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
So much for the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, VATs, which was actually the main reason for the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board. There were, however, presentations on other issues in keeping with the mission of the Joint Tax Board, which is creating a tax-friendly environment in Nigeria. All these presentations and other highlights of the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board will come to you in the very next episode of Tax Matters. One major highlight of the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board was the announcement of the appointment of Chief Oseni Salawe Elama as the new Executive Secretary of the Joint Tax Board.
As I introduce and congratulate the new Executive Secretary of the Joint Tax Board.
Until very recently, Chief Elama was the chairman of the Edo State Internal Revenue Service. Chief Elama takes over from Malam M.L. Abubakar, who returns to his duty post at the Federal Inland Revenue Service after 7 years of meritorious service as Secretary of the Joint Tax Board.
I'd like to thank the outgoing Secretary, who is well known to all of us. He's a director in the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and he served very well. And in the Inland Revenue Service, we even do have promotion exams to the level of director. And during that period of time, he was actually the highest scored as a director on the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So we are glad to have him back in FIRS, and we'll be informing you of his next posting.
Yet another high point of the 138th meeting of the Joint Task Board was the cutting of birthday cake by Mr. Babatunde Fowler, Chairman Joint Task Board, Executive Chairman FIRS, who on Saturday, 13th of August, clocked another year on Mother Earth.
Let's have a J, let's have a T, and let's have a B. B.
We wish Mr. Fowler a very happy birthday, many happy returns of the day, long life and prosperity. And to you, our viewers, thank you for watching. Have a blessed week ahead.